In this video, I'm going to run through the top 5 most commonly asked questions at TJ Maxx, and I'm going to help you plan really great answers that are going to get you that job working at TJ Maxx. So let's start with a question that comes up in every single interview, and that is simply, what times can you work at TJ Maxx? They're extremely interested to know this, and this will form a really key part of deciding whether or not to hire you. So I'm going to show you a method that scores highly on this and covers all of the things that they want to hear. So fundamentally, when you're answering this question, you want to do a few things. Firstly, you want to show that you are flexible. They would rather hire someone that shows lots of flexibility than someone who has a big long list of times that they can't work. The way that people absolutely screw up this question is they immediately start listing all the times that they can't do and then say, I can work other times. That's very negative. Focus on the times that you can do. Don't volunteer any times you can't do. Focus on what you can do. You want to make a mention of reliability. If you have a good track record of being reliable in previous jobs, mention that. Also state that reliability is very important, and I'm saying that I'm happy to work these times, and that when I say I'm going to be at your company at a certain time, I always turn up on time. Reliability is very important to me. Make sure you mention that. The next thing you're going to have to show off is that you have a can-do attitude. So when they're asking about different times, you want to try as hard as you can to say yes. If that's going to be a problem for those specific times, you don't want to immediately say no. You want to try and find what is the most flexibility you can show and perhaps say that you're happy to do that time in general, but you would not be able to commit to that time all the time. So you want to try and show as much flexibility as you possibly can at every single point. And fundamentally, they want to see that you're committed. If you can't show commitment to the company, then they're not going to hire you. If you have lots of problems and lots of reasons why you can't possibly work a wide range of times, they're just not going to hire you. The other thing you can do to really show off in this question is to mention some specific times that they are particularly interested in. So here is a list of things that TJ Maxx like to hear. So if you're happy to work on public holidays, that's a difficult time to staff the business. So that's something you can mention. If you're not so happy with those times, simply don't mention them. They're not likely to ask about them. Don't bring them up. Only volunteer the things that you want to volunteer. If you're happy to work on weekends, that's a good thing to mention. Evenings is another good thing to mention. Hopefully they'll be fair and you won't be scheduled to work every weekend, but you're not going to say no to weekends full stop. So you're saying that as part of the times that you're able to work, weekends would be something that you would consider. You could say that you're happy to work at short notice. Hopefully they've got good staffing models so that won't be required, but just mention it. It's probably not going to be required, but you can volunteer for that. Likewise with overtime, probably not going to get any overtime, but you're going to say that you're happy to do that, and you can show off some flexibility by doing that. And if you're really, really flexible, a great phrase to use in your interview is that you're happy to work around TJ Maxx's needs. So basically, you can work to accommodate business needs, and you're going to be there for the company when they need staffing. So if you stick to this by saying the things that you can do and not volunteering any of the times that you can't do, and being really positive, really enthusiastic, and showing off lots of flexibility, you will score really highly on this question and you will pass it and continue with the interview. The next thing you've got to do is make sure you know about the company. So the question, what can you tell me about TJ Maxx, is a really, really key question, and a question that you have to prepare for. Obviously, there is absolutely no point going to your TJ Maxx interview without knowing the company and understanding how it actually works. To impress them, you have to do preparation. And when you plan for this question, you're going to get loads of facts and things to discuss throughout the interview. And if you've prepared really well for this, it really does go a long way. So let's look at how you can answer this question. And the method that I use is to start by talking about the obvious things, which is what everybody knows about the company. Cover the basics. Then show off some research. Show an understanding of TJ Maxx's unique business model and how they are actually positioned competitively. And then lastly, you want to dig deep. You want to actually show off some knowledge that most people don't have, that only people that have really done great research on the company will know. And I'm going to share with you those key facts that you want to talk about in your interview. So let's start with the first thing that you should talk about, which is mention the obvious fact that TJ Maxx is a department store company, but it's not a department store like Macy's or Nordstrom. TJ Maxx has a much more interesting business model. TJ Maxx is what is known as an off-price retailer. TJ Maxx secret sauce, if you like, is in their buying. The key to their success is their buying. They buy in large quantities of product at very good prices, which they sell at heavy discounts. If a clothing company, for example, has too much stock, TJ Maxx will buy up the whole lot and sell it on off price. So you're getting the same quality as the other department stores because in many cases it's exactly the same product, but at a huge discount. The way that TJ Maxx describes itself is it is predominantly an apparel and home fashion retailer. And the key to their success is that they have a very low price, but also they offer very good value. And TJ Maxx fundamentally is very well known for their high inventory turnover, which means that stock comes in the door and then flies out the door much faster than other retailers. They talk about this phrase, door to floor in 24. So that means that the product is out on the store floor within 24 hours of it being delivered. There's a very fast turnaround there. They also have a higher priced segment called the runway, which sells much more fancy brands at higher prices in a select number of stores to appeal to a slightly wealthier audience. The company is part of the TJX company's business that's listed on the stock market, and it owns other things. It was founded by Bernard Camerata in 1976. You want to remember the name of the founder and mention it, and you want to remember the year 1976 as the founding of the TJ Maxx business in the similar way to how we know it now. It is a spin out of the Zayre Corporation. So there was a big business called Zayre, and they removed the TJ Maxx business and created that as a standalone business. And that's how it was actually founded. They have a European business called TK Maxx, which is pretty large in the United Kingdom as well. They also own the Marshalls chain. And if you remember all of these facts, take some notes and discuss this, you're going to really impress them with your knowledge. The other last top tip for success on this question is to take some time to read the TJX company's investor presentations. So that's what they actually tell their investors, and it gives you an up-to-date picture of how the company is doing, what their strategy is, and how the business is working right now. So take some time to read that. Go through these facts and you will really massively impress them at your interview. We're now going to move on and look at a question around how you deal with customers. And so we're going to look at how would you manage a complaint from an angry customer. And to answer this question, I'm going to share with you a simple 4-step procedure that scores highly and covers all the things that they want you to say. So my 4-step procedure is as follows. First, you start by talking about the word de-escalate, and you use the word de-escalate. De-escalating means calming the customer down and getting the situation under control. That's your priority. The next thing you want to say is that you're going to really listen to the customer. That when a customer makes a complaint, you take it very seriously, you listen to what they're saying, and also by showing that you're actively listening and you care about their complaint, it really does go a long way to calming the situation down. It really does work. The next thing you're going to say is that you're focused on the solution. You want to take the customer's complaint and find the solution to that problem and get it resolved as quickly as you can. The next thing you want to reassure them of is that while you're finding that solution, you're going to follow TJ Maxx's policies. You're not going to make up your own policies. You're going to follow what the company already has. There'll be a complaints policy. There'll be a refunds policy. All of these sort of policies are the things that are going to govern what you actually do. And then lastly, to sum up your answer to this question, you want to say that when you're dealing with an angry complaint from a customer, you want to transform a negative into a positive. Perhaps something's went wrong, they've had a bad experience, but you want to leave that customer feeling like their problem has been resolved. And actually, yes, TJ Maxx got it wrong the first time, but when they made a mistake, they sorted it out and they were brilliant. That is what you want to achieve. So in this question, say the word de-escalate, say that you're listening, talk about how you're focused on a solution and you're following the company's policies, and then finish your answer by saying you'll transform a negative into a positive, get those ideas in, and this question will be a big success for you. Let's move on to the next question, which asks about what are your strengths and weaknesses. Now, this question can be a great opportunity to show off your strengths And it can be, unfortunately, an opportunity to absolutely mess up the whole interview and basically lose the job there and then. So let's start by looking at how you answer the question around your major strengths, because this is a really great opportunity to show off. So fundamentally, when you're answering the strengths question, you start with a strength that's actually a substantial strength. So you want to pick a strength that actually makes a difference to their business. And I'll give you some ideas around some strengths that you might choose. Then you want to give some examples or some evidence. You actually have to back this up to make your answer strong. So if you've got previous work experience, you could use examples of when you've used this strength in your other jobs, or you could provide some evidence in the form of a reference from a previous manager that shows you've got that strength, or you could show off a qualification. The next thing you need to do is you need to show that this strength will make you an asset to TJ Maxx, that actually, if they hire you, they're going to get that strength into their business and it's going to help their business grow and be successful. So when you answer this question, there's a simple procedure that you can follow. So you start by saying, one significant strength I have is, say what your strength is. Then show off your evidence. Say, I can evidence this strength by, supply some sort of evidence or discuss some examples of how you've used this strength successfully in the past. Then you need to do some work for them and actually show that this strength matters. So you say, this strength will contribute to this TJ Maxx store by, and explain why your strength actually matters and how it's going to help you be really great at the job. So let's look at some ideas for some strengths that you could use. If you have work experience working with customers and working in retail, that can be your strength. Talk about your successes that you've had working in retail. If you can speak more than one language, so you're bilingual, that is a really great strength, particularly if your second language or your first language, with your second language being English, if that language links to a particular community that's going to be a customer of that store, you're adding to the skill base of that store. If you've got really great product knowledge of something that TJ Maxx sells, that could be one of your strengths. If you're very customer focused, reliable, or proactive, those could be your strengths as well. So choose one from that list or make up your own that follows the substantial and makes you an asset to TJ Maxx. And if you follow this procedure, really use this to sell yourself as a great candidate and convince them that they should hire you because you have these strengths. Now let's look at how you can answer the biggest weakness question. And this is one where people really mess up the interview. They pick a bad weakness and they end up digging themselves into a hole. So I'm going to show you how you can plan for this question in a way that isn't going to get you in trouble. So firstly, don't fake it. You don't want to give a fake weakness. So don't say something like, I'm a total perfectionist all the time. Being a perfectionist is not a weakness. So don't use that. I mean, you can try and make it into a weakness, but it's not at all convincing. Then you want to spend more time talking about how you're going to fix your weakness than explaining why it's actually a big weakness. And the number one most important thing is to absolutely ensure that TJ Maxx won't care about your weakness. So if you were to say something like, I regularly fart in front of customers, this happens several times a day, you've lost the interview there. So don't pick something that is actually something that is at all important. So you want a weakness that the company really, really doesn't care about. And when you give your answer, the simple way to do this is, a weakness that I'm aware of is, say a weakness that isn't a big deal to the company, and then say, to overcome this weakness, I am, and then just say the things that you're going to do to fix your weakness and why it's not going to be a problem. Focus more about what you're doing about your weakness than what the weakness actually is. Some ideas of things that you could use, particularly if you're applying for an entry-level job, a lot of these really are not a big problem. So if your maths isn't very good, that can be one weakness because the till will do pretty much all of the maths for you. If you're not great at delegating, that is something that's not going to matter at an entry level. If you're going for a manager job, don't say delegating, because if you're starting at entry level and thinking about in the future being a manager, that is a skill that you're looking to develop and learn. If your spelling's not great, doesn't really matter at an entry level, matters for a manager. If you are not particularly great at public speaking, well, that doesn't matter. You're unlikely to have to speak to hundreds of people while working at TJ Maxx all at once and give big presentations. Not part of your role, not relevant, but it is a weakness. Essay writing, again, you're not likely to have to write an essay working at TJ Maxx, so you could use that as your weakness. They're not going to care about it, but it is a weakness and something that you perhaps want to improve. So if you pick one of the weaknesses on this list, use my structure, you will get through this question really well, and really you want to survive this question. The next question I want to take you through is, why do you actually want to work at TJ Maxx? And if you don't prepare a good answer to this question, it's really going to hurt your chances of getting a job there. So let's look at the things that you need to think about to plan a great answer to this. So here's my basic checklist. So let's start with, what do you love about TJ Maxx? Talk positively about the brand and talk about the things that you really like about the company. Then think about how the job actually matches your skills. Are you good at working with customers? Have you got retail experience? Do you think that this is going to be something that you're going to actually be really good at? And so you can link your reasons for wanting to work for TJ Maxx with the skills that you have that will make you good at the job. The next thing you want to think about is the training that you're offered and the progression opportunities you have. So you can talk about moving up in the company and the opportunities that you can get by joining TJ Maxx. You can also talk about your personal interests. So think about any interests you have. If they link to TJ Maxx, that's a good thing to discuss. And really importantly, you want to show some enthusiasm. While you're talking about the TJ Maxx brand and you're talking about working there, you have to show that you're actually going to be enthusiastic. They would rather hire someone that's going to love the job that they're doing than someone who isn't really sure about whether TJ Maxx is somewhere they're actually interested in working. Let's look at some other things you can talk about and some key points that you really need to get in there. So start by thinking about career progression. Do you want to work for TJ Maxx for a long time? If you do, definitely mention that. Do you want to move into management in the future as a long-term goal? Talk about that. Talk about the career progression opportunities that are available. Also, if you have been referred by another employee or you know someone that works at TJ Maxx, you can talk about, without using their name, of course, that you have spoken to people who work at the company and here's all the positive things they have to say about the company, and share in their enthusiasm and share in their positivity. Remember to talk about the match between TJ Maxx and your skills, because this is a great opportunity to link your skills to working at TJ Maxx. If you love the TJ Maxx brand, talk about your love of the brand, talk really positively about the company and show some enthusiasm. The next thing you can think about is, do you think that you will really enjoy working with customers? Do you enjoy working with new people? Is being around lots of people something that is really important to you? You can talk about that as well as a reason why you would love your job at TJ Maxx. And if you've got a really good experience of being a customer at TJ Maxx and you regularly shop there, talk about that in this question as well. So if you get all of those ideas, or at least most of those ideas, into your answer and you plan it out with good bullet points, you'll be really successful on this question. Before we finish, I've got one bonus for you, which is some great questions that you can ask TJ Maxx at the end of the interview. So one thing you can start by asking is about the next steps in the hiring process. Show that you're enthusiastic, show that you really care about what happens next. You can also ask them what you should do now to be really well prepared for starting. Ask about the team that you're going to be working with and show an interest in your colleagues. You can also ask them to describe what they see as the ideal TJ Maxx employee, and you can engage in a discussion about your previous answers and how you meet the criteria for what they are fundamentally looking for. And the last thing you need to remember is that you need to invent one question there and then. You have to think up one question on the day that shows that you're listening to what they're saying and it's a two-way conversation between you. So I hope this video was really helpful to you. If this video has been helpful, please like and subscribe. If you've had an interview or got one coming up, please post that in the comments below and share the questions that you were asked in your interview to help everybody else out. And finally, best of luck in your TJ Maxx interview, and thank you very much for watching.